So I'm going to carry on talking about the horrible murders in Bedford in the UK that I did do a video about earlier today. So 3 people, triple murder, and sadly a mother and her 2 children. And the children is a teenager and a 5-year-old. Found deceased in their own home. We don't know how they died yet. That's not been released as far as I know anyway. And the husband of the deceased woman and the father of the 2 children has been seen getting a plane or at Heathrow Airport on his way probably to Zimbabwe, which is where he comes from. So I'm going to show you the CCTV. We're going to talk a little, the police has released new details, a photo of the victims. So we're going to talk about, they've now released a CCTV photo of him at Heathrow Airport. So that's obvious, he's done a run around. One there, yeah. He's from Zimbabwe originally, but he has got a British passport because he travelled on a British passport. There he is at Heathrow Airport. Now, I've got to say, maybe you can't see it very well on that photo, but his face, when if you blow up the photo, he does look sort of blasted. I don't know any other way to say it. His eyes, he looks dead. His eyes look dead. Like he's sort of, what the hell have I done? And he may well be very remorseful because we don't know the circumstances. Not that making excuses for him, he's still a twonk, whatever. But sometimes, what is the reason for this horrible tragedy? Is it a mental health issue? Is it money issue? Was he intending to take his own life as well, but he just didn't know how to do it? Or was he always planning to run off to Zimbabwe? Has he got another woman somewhere in the background? These are all questions we don't know the answer to yet. And this just reminds me so much, remember the case of Sarah Sharif. So similar. Remember the pictures at the airport, because Sarah Sharif, that beautiful little girl who was abused over such a length of time. In the end, her little body just gave up and she died in the middle of being abused, probably. And the family sort of tucked her up in bed, took her out, washed her down with the hose. Though, to be fair, that a Muslim tradition is that the body gets washed, but with a hose. Anyway, then they put her in her pajamas and they put her in her bed and tucked her up in her bed. And then the family left and off they went back to their native country. And that was her biological father, her stepmother, and her uncle, and the other kids that they had. And there was photos, weren't they, on the CCTV at Heathrow Airport, very reminiscent to me of this. Just watching them all there, just acting normal after they'd left Sarah Sharif, just dead in her bed. Anyway, they did phone up the police and say she was there and she was dead. And at least that's something. They didn't just leave her there, because how long would may she have been left there before anyone even realised, if they wouldn't have phoned up the police and said she was there? Which is more than this twonk did, because this twonk didn't phone up and say, confess to what he'd done. So he's fled to Zimbabwe. And now I wonder if he's going to do the same thing that Sarah Sharif's parents did, because they went off to their native country, and at first the family were hiding them, or helping them is probably a better explanation. But then it got so difficult for the family, you know, the police kept raiding them and this, that, and the other, that in the end, they did, well, they made a video first and then they did voluntarily return to the UK. They did voluntarily return to the UK. And of course, they were tried and they both received hefty sentences. And they're both in prison now. And in fact, the mother or the stepmother of Sarah Sharif, as I was saying earlier, she's become best pals with Lucy Letby in prison, apparently. Anyway, will he do the same? Will he have a fit of conscience and decide to come back and face the music? Will he? What story is going to tell in his head? Hi, Sean. Hello. He'll be working out as we speak, probably, if he's still alive, because he may have gone to Zimbabwe and maybe he'll decide to take his own life. We just don't know. But he's gone to Zimbabwe, where he's from originally. And what's he going to do now? Now, we were looking earlier in Zimbabwe, there is no reciprocal extradition. There is no extradition treaty. So, but of course, that does not mean that he won't get extradited. All that means is that the Zimbabwean government, if they don't want to extradite him, they don't have to, because there is no. But that doesn't mean to say they won't, because the thing is, his wife also. Sorry, excuse me, my voice is going a little bit. His wife is Zimbabwean as well, I think. So, they've got a duty as Zimbabweans to extradite him, whether they have to or not, because they've got to think about the justice for his wife and the two little girls. So just because there's no extradition treaty does not mean that he can't get extradited. So, of course, there's two other things that he might do. He may delete himself. I mean, what's he going to do in Zimbabwe? Because you can bet that people will get to know about what he's done. Will family really help him? You can't imagine they would not for something like this. They might help him if he was fleeing because of, I don't know, credit card fraud or something like that. But because of, murdering his wife and daughters, if he had allegedly, would they, excuse him for that? Hide him, help him when, the crime that he's suspected of is murdering this family. It's so sad, isn't it, when you see these photos? They're all smart. Oh, I don't know. It's very sad. It's very sad. Oh, thank you, Wesley. That's a nice thing to say. Wesley's just said that I'm very loved. That's very kind. Thank you so much. So loved. Oh, bless Wesley. Thank you. So, yeah. What do you think he'll do? Any thoughts? Is he likely to have a fit of conscience himself and give himself up like the Sharifs did? I mean, they did do that. They did come back and they were arrested on the plane. As soon as it touched down in Heathrow, they were arrested. And that was the Sarah Sharif's biological father, her stepmother, and her uncle. They were all arrested immediately. So, I think life just got too difficult. Things got too hot for them. Their families, in the end, they started off sort of supporting them, if you like, and helping them to be hidden. But in the end, they took the children. The other children. But, I think the family said to him, look, you've just got to go back. Anyway, what will this man do? So let's have I've got a couple of, let's read this article. So it's a developing story, of course. News will be coming thick and fast. And you know what? As I say, just because there's no extradition treaty with Zimbabwe doesn't mean to say that Zimbabwe won't decide to extradite him anyway. They can do it if they want to. It's just that they're not obliged to. Sorry, I'm just adding that to the stage. So let's have a look. So this is a BBC article, and this is when the police named the man who was wanted over the murders of his wife and daughters. So sad, because they lived in this massive house in Bedfordshire, like, you know, worth over £1 million. You know, beautiful house. Though, you know, is there some money problems here? He's some sort of high flying IT guy. So police have released the CCTV image of a murder suspect believed to have killed his wife and 2 daughters before fleeing the UK. The bodies of Nothabo Zandile Zuma, 42, and her daughters Natalie, 15, and Nala, 5. Oh, I mean, you know, it's terrible for all of them, but how do you do that? How do you murder your 5-year-old child? You know, how could you possibly do it? You know, if you had an argument with Zandili, I'm not saying, you know, that he should have killed Zandili. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you can see that adults, couples, they have arguments. Things get out of control and, you know, people get angry. But how could you do that to your 5-year-old? Or your 15-year-old? You know, your children are innocent. You know, you brought them into the world. You have a responsibility to keep them safe. Anyway, they were found after police forced entry to a house near Bedford on Monday, after reports the family had not been seen for several days. So Bedfordshire police is seeking 45-year-old Dodana, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that right, but I don't care really, Mikanishi Zuma, also known as Mark, who left the country via Heathrow Airport on a British passport on Saturday. So Detective Inspector Lee Martin said, "We know that Mark left the country on Saturday and is now believed to be in Zimbabwe." And he added that the force was working with national and international agencies to find him. "We are urgently working to find and apprehend him, and we would appeal to him directly to hand himself in." He appealed directly to the suspect, saying, "Mark, unthinkable harm has been caused to those around you, and this has left your relatives and friends utterly devastated. Criminal investigation knows no borders. Please do the right thing. Come forward and hand yourself in to local authorities." Zimbabwe's police force told the BBC the country has yet to receive any formal notice from Interpol of the possible presence in the country of Mark Zuma. Police spokesman Paul Nyathi said the force was aware of the case via the media and had put structures in place to alert for any sightings. So this is the scene outside the home. People have been laying flowers, the mum. Tribute and the 2 girls. The tributes were paid to the 2 girls by their schools, with Pilgrim's Pre-Prep School head Joe Webster described Nala as a ray of sunshine, known for her inquisitive nature and wonderful sense of humour. And she said that many of our staff had known her since she was just 7 months old, and had the privilege of watching her grow. Bedford Girls' School head Gemma Gibson remembered Year 10 pupil Natalie as bright and accomplished, while heightening her talents as a dancer, musician, and sportswoman. Let's put their photo up. So it's quite a big age difference between the two girls, of course. You're looking at a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. And it's funny, actually, because there was a big age difference in our family. You know, my sister, who sadly passed on Monday, she is 13 years, she was 13 years older than me. You know, my parents had, you know, 3 children and then waited. It's a bit of a long story. We'll talk about tomorrow in the members. And then waited quite a long time and then had 2 other children, the last one of which was me. So there's quite an age difference. But yeah, there they are, the girls, bless them. I just can't imagine. I mean, how terrifying is it going to be? Your own father, you know, just awful, isn't it? But anyway, let's just read the article. Sorry. She was fun-loving, full of life, and had a positive impact on everyone she came into contact with. She will be remembered with great warmth and affection. This is Detective Inspector Lee Marvin. So the house in Carnoustie Drive in Great Denham in Bedfordshire has been cordoned off and bunches of flowers have been placed on a hedge outside. A woman who was, let me take that picture off now, sorry, you wouldn't have been able to see the picture of the detective because I had the picture of the victims up. Let's show you the detective again. That's the detective that made the appeal to the father, the husband and father. So a woman who was amongst the people who laid flowers tearfully said, "We're so sorry to lose her. She was such a gracious mother." Other neighbours who spoke to the BBC said they were shocked that the incident took place in such a nice and safe area. How often do we hear that? Gosh, look, that's the house. Got all those police vans. You know, this is what we always hear, isn't it? Oh, nothing like that ever happens here. Really surprised it's a safe neighbourhood, you know, etc. No neighbourhood is safe. You know, no neighbourhood is safe, and not for, you know, if there were domestic violence issues here, that'd be something that will come out, isn't it, in the future? Was there a history of domestic violence in this sort of picture perfect family? Was there a history of domestic violence or not? Or is this just a complete meltdown? You know, because that sort of thing does happen. Assistant Chief Constable John Murphy had previously said it was a deeply distressing incident in which a mother and her 2 children are believed to have been murdered. The force said there was nothing to suggest there was wider risk to the public, but it would be increasing patrols in the area. And anyone with information about the incident or who saw any suspicious activity in the area on Friday or Saturday have been asked to contact Bedfordshire Police. And formal identification of the victims has not yet taken place. Yeah. So that's where we are. I'm going to put that down and then I'm going to just check, see if there's been any developments, you know, just while we've been on air, really, because sometimes things can develop quickly, can't they? So but I can't see. So apparently Mark, according to this article that I've got up here now, but I'm not sharing it, I'm just going to read bits of it out. He's from Bedford, and he's a British citizen of Zimbabwean heritage. There's a bit of a better picture there of him, actually, closer up. I'm going to show that. And you tell me, to me, looking at his eyes, he looks haunted. I mean, how's he ever going to, you just think with these people, especially who kill their own children, how do you ever sort of, that'd haunt you every night, surely, wouldn't it? How could you sleep at night? I mean, it's bad enough to kill your wife, but your children, those little girls, I don't know if you can see his eyes, but he looks very, it's a video, is it?
This is what we know so far about what happened at this property in Bedfordshire. Now, it was Monday when police were called here. Concerns were raised that a mother and her 2 children hadn't been seen for several days. Now, police forced their way into the property and they found the bodies of 3 victims. The police have now named the victims as Ntabo Zandile Chuma, known as Zandile, and her daughters Nala, aged 5, and Natalie, aged 15. And as police work to try to find out what happened to them, they're also trying to find a suspect as well. Detectives have now identified the suspect as Endadana Makanyasi Chuma. The 45-year-old, who goes by the name Mark, is from Bedford and is a British citizen of Zimbabwean heritage. He's thought to have flown from Heathrow to Zimbabwe on Saturday.
Mark, I am now speaking to you directly. Unthinkable harm has been caused to those around you. 3 innocent people have lost their lives in the worst possible circumstances. Criminal investigations know no borders. We are actively working with national and international agencies to pursue every available line of inquiry to track you down. And we will find you.
Police are saying they don't believe that there's a wider threat to the public, but there is a large police presence in this area. Forensics officers are carrying on their searches at the property. We've spoken to a man actually who maintains the swimming pool at the house. He came here to pay his respects, and he described a nice man living here, a nice family. People have been coming here to lay flowers, and one neighbour said that their children were so upset over what had happened that they weren't able to go to school today.
Oh no, I bet they weren't. Gosh, I mean, they wouldn't want to go to school, would they, after hearing about that their friends? So everyone's saying what a lovely family they are. Just shows you, doesn't it? Just shows you never know what's going on behind closed doors, do you? This lovely sort of family, and now they're all dead. Yeah, the moment, look at it. Can you see there? He looks haunted in his eyes, this guy. I hope he gives himself up, because he can't take back what's happened. But how's he going to live with that? How's he going to live with it?